Sensationally silver, because you are.
Welcome, everyone, to Sensationally Silver, A State of Mind, conversations with extraordinary, ordinary persons of age, people who are going to bring you information, inspiration, and validation. Join us. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Sensationally Silver, A State of Mind. My guest today is Elizabeth Freed, and she is a medium, and she's going to tell us how she discovered this quality in herself, this ability, this talent, and how we can too. So hello, Elizabeth, and welcome to Sensationally Silver. You are Sensationally Silver. Look at that hair.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. I want to start out by saying anybody can be a medium. I had no idea. I am the straightest, most left brain corporate executive coach. I'm retired now. But prior to that, to me, if I couldn't see it, feel it, or touch it, I didn't believe it. I never considered any of these things. I will say that I had a couple of awakenings that I dismissed along the way. I'm going to be 77 on April the 11th. So in my 20s, I had an out-of-body experience that was quite jolting, and I looked into it. I read books about it, but then I thought, well, so what good is that going to do? My whole purpose in life is to be of service. Is that helping anybody? No, so forget about it. So I forgot about it. Then in my 40s, I had experienced 3 miscarriages. Now, actually, I was maybe like 38, 39, all right? And I didn't, I was saddened, of course, but then I just moved on to other things. But around that time, I was on the telephone with a client, and it was the middle of the morning, and I was wide awake. And all of a sudden, I noticed that the room took on a golden glow. And I'm saying, oh, yes, 2:00 sounds fine. And then I felt this overpowering sense of unconditional love, a love I had never felt before. I didn't know where it was coming from. And at the same time, I'm trying to set up an appointment with GE Aircraft Engine. So at the time, I thought I heard something, and I thought maybe my husband had walked into the room. So the next thing I felt was this reassuring squeeze on my shoulder. Now, I have to tell you, I am such a business person that when I'm focused on business, I'm focused on business. And all this stuff is going on around me. And then the squeeze on the shoulder, I think, is my husband. I go to wheel around to say to him, just a minute, I'm on the phone. I'm a little annoyed because he's walking in on me on a business call. And there was no one there. And I went, whoo! And the lady on the phone said, are you all right? I said, yes, I'm fine. I wasn't scared. I was just, what is this about? And then the light dissipated, the love dissipated, and it all went away. And I just sat back and went, what was that? And it never happened to me again. And so that was like 30 years ago. And I yearned for it because that feeling was unbelievable. But time goes on. Now I'm getting ready to retire, and I'm in my early 70s. And I see that there's a course being offered called Mediumship Toolkit at the Monroe Institute. Now, I had taken several courses from them, and I never really pursued anything. They were interesting, they were metaphysical, but I didn't have time. Now I had time. I said, Mediumship Toolkit. I thought you had to be born with a gift to that. This is interesting. So I took it. It was a week-long course, and I was fascinated. I wasn't very good. I was about 20% accurate. And I said, well, that's not good enough. I'm interested in this. If I'm really interested, I want to learn more. So I set about that following year doing what would be equivalent to taking an executive MBA in mediumship. I took a circle, I took a 7 week, 8 week course, a 10 week course, a 7 week course. I went on a 14-hour cruise. I mean, I did everything to get as educated as I could. And I had a wonderful teacher who was a retired military officer who had worked for the Joint Chiefs of Staff. Her name is Suzanne Giesman, and I would encourage you to take her courses if you're interested at the Shift Network. And she was right up my alley because this woman was a straight arrow, just like me, very left brain, taught leadership courses, said, this is the overview of the course. Here are the objectives. Here are the takeaways. Here are the resources. And my accuracy now is between 70 and 100%. So I'm feeling good about that. So that is how I got into this area. And the thing I like about it is that, as I mentioned, my purpose is to be of service. And this allows me, my intention, to provide healing and empowering messages from departed loved ones to those who are in need. So that's the whole story behind it. So how do you do it? Yes. You have a question.
Well, I want to hear, before you go on, how this has affected your life, Elizabeth, this shift from this very business-like approach to life. I mean, when you were talking about being on the phone with this person, the phrase that came into my mind was War of the Worlds. Here are these two completely different spheres of experience, so seemingly separate, and there they were both going on with you. So how has your life changed?
Well, I would say I'm more aware. I am more empathetic. Because I was always very task focused. And so now I'm very careful about what I say and how I say it, because words create worlds. And I'm much more sensitive to the needs of others and less focused on the end game of the task, but more on connecting with that person and really providing them what they need, as opposed to some finished project task. It's just a whole different situation.
So tell us a story about providing someone with what they need through your input into their life.
Well, when I am what is known as an evidential medium, as opposed to, there are some people who go to a medium and say, well, I have your mother here, and then they just start giving you a message. I don't do it that way. I have to make sure I truly have your mother there. So when I connect to spirit, I come up with a variety of pieces of evidence. I might say, I'm connected with a woman who looks as though she passed between the ages of 70 and 80. She kind of looks like Granny Clampett from the Beverly Hillbillies. She's spry and she's little and she's opinionated. And I will give you all of this evidence. And then I will stop and I will say, are you aware of a woman who passed? Would you understand a woman who passed between the ages of 70 and 80? They have to answer me like this. Yes, no, I don't know. I'm not sure. I don't remember. Tell me nothing more. If they say yes, then I go on to the next question. Was this woman relatively petite and thin and high energy? Yes, no, whatever. When I get, even if I get a no, it's not a problem, because then I go back and I get more information. So no's are never a problem. I just have to refine. So once I get enough evidence where the client says to me, oh, I know who that is. That's my cousin Susie. Then I say, okay, now what we need to do, we validated that the spirit is cousin Susie. Now we need to further validate, and I'm going to give you a memory that only you and cousin Susie remember. Then I give the memory, and then I wait to get a yes on that. Subsequently, I feel comfortable about giving the message because we know we're connected to the right person. So that's the process that I go through. After that, then I can debrief with the client and have them fill in the gaps for me. But until that time, I don't want them to tell me anything. And this way I can never be accused of, well, I hinted or whatever. No, I don't go down that road. Okay.
Right. And it sounds a bit like it's like tuning a radio. You just get closer and closer to that frequency and share that. Yeah.
It's an excellent analogy, Robin. Great input on that. Yeah. So let me share with you a couple of experiences I've had that are, these are the more mind-blowing ones. But my process was, now I start to connect with spirit. I go through about a couple of minutes to make my connection. Now I meditate every day to make sure that I have put myself in the right headspace, spiritual space. And then I connect with spirit. Now, before I start getting this evidence, I oftentimes get this random word or image, and I used to just ignore it and say, well, that's random. That doesn't make any sense. And then I realized that it's somehow connected. So now I just report it. 90% of the time it comes out in the reading. So I might say, well, I got an image of an elephant. Would you understand that? And the client might say to me, no, I have no idea what you're talking about. So I said, well, okay, let's look at that elephant metaphorically. It could mean something very big happened in that spirit's life, or there was an elephant in the room, something nobody ever wanted to discuss. Would you understand that? Maybe. Okay, we'll put it in the parking lot, put a pin on it. We'll come back to it. I'll start to make my connections. We'll see if there's a connection. Okay. Then I go through and I do it. My most recently, I had this experience that just kind of knocked my socks. Then you really know you're connected. I connected with this woman and I said, I'm getting an image of a vanilla box of pudding. And I said, wait a minute. Now I'm hearing the word orange. Now, that doesn't make sense to me. I know there's vanilla pudding, but I've never heard of orange pudding. I've heard of orange jello. Now it makes me think of orange and vanilla like a creamsicle. Would you understand that? And she said, possibly. Straightest face ever. Possibly, she says. Okay, so now I go through and I give her evidence, and we've connected with her mother. She's very happy. I've connected with her mother. And then I go through the memory. And I get this mother says something to me, and I'm not sure how I want to say this because first, do no harm. You don't want to say anything that's going to upset them. But I thought, I gotta say this. I said, your mother, as part of a memory, says, you lied to her. And the client went, I did, and it was a big. And she has never let me forget it. Every time there was an opportunity, she brought it up. And I, well, it hasn't stopped.
Yeah, she's doing it again. Oh my gosh.
So then we finish with the reading. I give her a message. She's all happy with this message and everything. And I forgot about the vanilla pudding at this time, because we dealt with everything else. And she goes, just a minute. There's something I want to discuss with you. She leaves the screen, comes back with a box of vanilla pudding and a box of orange jello. She said, I have had these for 5 years. My mother gave them to me before moving into an assisted living facility. And I said to her, Mom, what am I going to do with this? I don't really eat vanilla pudding and an orange jello, and they don't even go together. And her mother says, listen, I want to clean out my cupboard. You keep it. Maybe you can mix them together and make a creamsicle.
Yeah.
No way would I have ever known to even dream that up. Crazy, you know? But that was such validation to me and to her to really know that the message that she got from her mother was spot on and that I had really been communicating with her. There was another one that, this is just a real brief one, of when I was first practicing as a medium. We practice with other mediums, and there's a wonderful platform that allows you to do this. It's called verysoul.com, where mediums practice with each other. So there was some, and I could practice anywhere in the world because it's set up to coordinate our schedules. It's fabulous. So I'm talking to this other medium in London, and I've connected with, I think, her grandfather or her uncle or something like that. And I'm giving her a message, and I said, he's doing this odd thing. He's going, boosha, boosha. Now, I don't know what the word boosha means. And I said, I have no idea what that means. Would you understand that? And she said, well, even though I'm in London, I'm originally from Poland or Romania. I don't remember what she said. And busha in our language means kisses. Again, I would have no idea about that. I'm talking to a lady I think is in London, that's English. Now, another one that was most interesting to me was I do commercials and print work, and I used to do film. I can't do film anymore. I can't remember the lines. But I was doing a student type of film, and this woman also was volunteering on this film, but she was a professional actress, very attractive, Black woman, maybe in her 50s. And we became friendly and stayed in touch. So we text each other once or twice a year, how you doing, blah, blah, that kind of thing. She found out that I'm doing mediumship, and she said, wow, I'd really like for you to do a reading for me. I said, okay, sure. So we schedule a reading, and I mentioned she's Black, around 50, and attractive. So the first thing I see when I'm connected is a Black man in the jungle with a spear in a loincloth. And I think, I am not going to say this. This is going to come across racist, like, where is my mind going? I was panicking. But I said, all right, but it is what it is. I'm getting this for a reason. So how am I going to say this in a way that is palatable? So I said, I see a man who passed between the ages of 40 and 50. He is very handsome, and he is ripped. I mean, physique-wise, he's fabulous. And he is walking, and now I'm using my clairsentience, my feeling. He is walking with such confidence. It is almost warrior-like. Would you understand it? She says, nah, I don't know anybody who fits that description. I said, okay, let me go back and get some more. I'm undaunted because I know what I'm seeing. So I said, now he's talking about something about a panther, Black Panther. Would you understand that? And she says, I never had anything to do with the political group Black Panthers. I am so determined. I said, no, we're not talking about the political group. We're talking about panther, animal, panther. She says, you're not talking about Wakanda, Black Panther, Chadwick Boseman, are you? I said, Chadwick Boseman. Let me see. So I asked, silently, I said, you Chadwick Boseman? And I got the shivers. I said, yes, that is who we're talking to. She says, oh, I knew Chad. I said, you knew Chadwick Boseman? And I think it's Boseman or Boswick, one or the other. She said, yes, I used to see him at auditions all the time. Before his career blew up with the Fantastic Four and Wakanda Black Panther, he then got married. So I didn't really see him after that. He was a really nice guy. I wonder, why in the world is he coming through? So I said, well, and initially I said to you, I have no control over what spirit comes forward, but I can guarantee you that whoever it is has your best interest at heart. So, but before we do that, I need to share a memory with you. So I said, he is showing me the two of you on a film set. And what I'm seeing are two actors' chairs. And, those canvas chairs that you would see it had the actors. She says, so we never did a film together. I said, all right, I'll ask him for a different memory. And she was not easy, okay? Didn't matter. So I said, okay, now he's showing me the two of you having lunch in LA. It's in a restaurant that's outdoors or one of those restaurants that have the glass top that makes you feel like you're outdoors. And she said, you know what? We did have lunch in LA once. So then I gave her her message. And interestingly, it had to do with her career. She had some career concerns and he was advising her. It was very interesting. And I should say, Chadwick Boseman, if you're unfamiliar with him, passed away around his mid-40s from colon cancer. And he told no one, and in fact, was nominated for an Oscar posthumously. So he was very well known and known to be a really nice guy and very humble. And she said to me, you know, he was a really stand-up guy, was always very helpful. She said, as a matter of fact, he had asked me if I wanted to do a project with him, but I don't know, I was busy at the time. I was on some other gig. I don't know, I couldn't do it. I said, he asked you to be on a project with him? That memory he showed of the stage set with the two chairs was to remind you that he had asked you to be on a project with him. She just didn't put it together, but I knew exactly what that was about once she told me that. See, the medium is not supposed to really interpret, but that was obvious to me, okay? So that was just a very, I mean, he was the only celebrity I ever had come through, but, and I was not really a big fan of his either, but it was interesting how that happened. So that's kind of some of the very cool things that happen, and then we debrief it.
So sometimes it sounds like even when someone asks for a reading, they're a little resistant. And it's your job to kind of convince them that this is genuine, even though they asked for it. So you're not having to overcome, oh, that's not true. That doesn't work. That's, just made up. You're not having to overcome that, but you're still having to overcome some doubts and questions about, is this really happening?
Yes. Well, what happens is they have somebody they really want to come forward. And so they're focused on that. And in my initial introduction, I say, I have no control over who comes forward. So I'm going to ask, many people want a family member or a former spouse, a spouse to come forward. I cannot guarantee that. But I can guarantee it's whoever has your best interest at heart. So I'm going to provide you with evidence, and you're going to need to keep an open mind. It could be a friend, a neighbor, a teacher, a coworker, a former lover. I have no idea. But I'm going to present you with evidence, so you need to open your mind wider as to who this might apply to.
Yeah.
Now, I had a situation where a woman had wanted her stepfather to come forward. She didn't tell me this, all right? I started describing this man, and she said yes to everything. And then she said, that sounds like my father. I said, are you saying to me that your father and your stepfather are identical in these characteristics, except for this one defining one in terms of a personality style? She said, yes. I said, then I probably have two spirits here. So let me ask the one that is your father to step back. I also tell people, if there's somebody you don't want to talk to that you know is coming forward, I will just say, Robin is just not available to talk to you right now. Perhaps you can come at another time when she may be more receptive. And I'm always very polite and I ask them to step back, and they generally do. In this case, with her father, I said, she prefers to talk to her stepfather. I'm going to ask you to step back. He says, I don't want to step back. I have something very important for her to know, and I would like to be able to say it. So I said to her, he's being pretty insistent upon wanting to give you a message. Are you open to that? She said, that would be him. Okay. So he gave her the message, and it was a very comforting message for her. He is apologizing for something. I don't know what it was. Then done. Then I get the stepfather. Later, she says, You didn't know this, but I had a picture of my father and my stepfather sitting here in front of me, and they both came forward. So that can happen.
It sounds like, in a way, she drew them both into the reading, into the message.
Right, right.
I know you could go on with wonderful stories, and I would love to hear them. And I bet most of the people who are listening and watching would too. But I know also, Elizabeth, that you help people get in touch with their own ability to do this. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yes, there are ways to do this. As I mentioned, the Shift Network has excellent courses online. The Monroe Institute offers a retreat. There's also the Arthur Findlay College in London that offers classes. I recommend Suzanne Giesman's classes. She's wonderful. Then there is this platform called VerySoul, VerySoul.com. This was put together by a woman who was a financial executive in systems and in banking, I believe. And she got discovered she was a medium and got this download that says there needs to be a way for more people to learn this skill, and that the goal was to create 10,000 competent mediums throughout the world to serve the community. So she, because of her systems background, created this platform that if anyone is studying to be a medium, they offer them courses, they offer them coaching, they offer them the opportunity to practice. I went through it. The first thing that happens is you practice with other mediums. And you have to get feedback. You have to give them feedback, and they have to give you feedback. Then her name was Sally Hawk, the woman that put this together. Then Sally approached me and said, "You've got great feedback from your other mediums. We'd like to advance you to starter clients." Now, I had already been functioning as a professional medium, but I wanted to be approved by them. So I went through the starter clients, who are people who understand you're a developing medium, and they are going to give you feedback and suggestions about what was good, what may need to be improved, et cetera. I passed that level. The next one is donor clients. These are outreach clients. These are people who cannot afford to pay for a medium, but they deeply need one, and they're allowed one free reading. And they are then given that by people like me. And the purpose of this level is you get people from all walks of life so that you can be prepared to deal with anybody and everyone. And I mean, I've had people that I connected to, they're in their car, they're smoking dope. It's just like, oh my God, but you have to treat everybody respectfully, and you have to resolve whatever it is that you need to do. And you learn to kind of pivot and deal with that. And then once you pass that, then you are able to go on their list as a professional medium, which I then passed the next level. And so I have been certified by them as a professional medium. So that's another way one can learn how to do this.
And I know one of the things that you advocate, and is advocated in general in learning and practicing mediumship, is practice.
Oh, yeah. Not just once, but practice, practice, practice. Even when, let's say, I am busy doing other things and I haven't had a chance to do a reading, because I don't want to do readings every day and be totally booked, because I have other things going on in my life. So if there is like a lull, I will go on VerySoul, and they have readings on demand where another medium, I can practice with another medium just because I don't want to get rusty. And on the hour, the first 15 minutes of the hour, say from 9 to 9:15, I say, I would like to do a reading. And if anybody else is out there on my time zone, they bang, connect us, and we're off to the races. So I might do that once every couple of weeks if I feel like I didn't get enough practice in. But the other thing is I meditate, I build the power for what it is I need to do. And it's practice, practice, practice. And I continue to take, I'm now enrolled in a year-long course with through the Shift Network, where we meet once a week for an hour and a half of lecture, and once a week for practice with a smaller circle. So it's a constant development thing. You never arrive. Let's put it that way. I am not natural, so I have to do this.
Well, even if you identified yourself as being a natural, if you had the greatest gift in the world, I'm thinking of the analogy that I studied with Barbara Brennan, who wrote Hands of Light. And she said, anybody can do this. She said, so many of the things you're saying, we were learning to heal through the human energy field. But she said, you have to, it's like learning the piano. You have to practice your scales.
Mm-hmm.
And even if you're the greatest pianist in the world, you're practicing all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So it, in a way, it doesn't matter how big the gift is. What matters is your dedication to actualizing it. That's what I'm doing.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, Elizabeth, it's time for us to say goodbye. Before we do that, I want to ask you to what is your message to anybody who's listening, who's watching today, who's in this time of life, this, what one of my guests calls the third act of life. What's your message for us?
Well, I believe in reinventing oneself. I did it regularly throughout my career. And it all depends on what your purpose is. Follow your purpose. If your purpose is to help others and to be of service, this is a great way to do it, because there are people that are hurting and they have this need. The other thing is, if you want to just explore and understand, and quantum physics demonstrates that this is very real, just get on the ride. That's all I can say. Go for the ride. It is eye-opening. It will thrill you, enthrall you, and keep you young. That's what it does.
I love that message. As we move consciously toward the end of our life, and of course we're always doing that, but at this point, it's more present, that thought that we don't go on in this body forever. There are certain things that are so comforting. And these dimensions, when we explore them, they really do comfort us, that there's so much more to what we call life than this package in this body in this time. So, Elizabeth, thank you so much. You really carry the message of healing through this particular thing that you offer. So, Elizabeth, thank you so very much for being my guest today.
My pleasure. Thank you. And thank you for inviting me.
Oh, I am so glad you were here. And thank you, all of you who are listening, who are viewing. We'll see you next time on Sensationally Silver, A State of Mind. Bye for now. Sensationally Silver, A State of Mind is sponsored by Sensationally Silver, a complete hair care product line created especially for people with hair like ours, naturally gray and white hair. Sensationally Silver products can be found exclusively at sensationallysilver.com.
Sensationally silver.